Marie Torossian. Marie has been passionate about modernizing the CPA industry. When she started her CPA firm in 2020, she realized how difficult it was to get consistent referrals and leads using social media. Her struggle became an opportunity. She hired the top names in the industry to learn her skills and strategies needed to train and push herself to the next level. This vast knowledge became her strength and inspiration to create the Profit Lab, which mission is to help fellow accountants and CPAs 10x their firm revenues by getting consistent referrals and leads using social media. Marie has over 30 years business experience, having helped dozens of clients as a financial auditor, controller, and chief financial officer. She is also a certified 10x coach, speaker, and mentor, a certified public accountant, and a chartered global management accountant. I warmly welcome Marie Torossian. Welcome to BrandsTalk. Hi, Marie. How are you?
Hi, Brigitte. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, finally.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm so happy to have you. We have known each other, I think, around for 2 or 3 years through Leadership Global. It's a global community.
Yeah.
And now we finally have the time to talk about you. I was recently on your show, talk about my entrepreneurial journey. Yet now it's about you. So, Marie, could you please share a little about could you share a little bit about your personal background, your personal story? I know you're coming from a different country, you're coming from Lebanon, and you started your business in the United States. So tell us a little bit about how that plays into your personality, into your journey to become an entrepreneur. Let's dive in.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for that question. Yeah. My origin is Armenian, born and raised in Lebanon. So I grew up most of my life during wartime in Lebanon. I feel that one of the strengths that it brings about is the fact that I'm very resilient. So when I say I'm a survivor and resilient, some people think I have survived a bad health situation, but I'm like, no, I survived the war. So I'm really grateful to be able to do that. So as I thinking of entrepreneurship, I started working with my dad. He had a small shop that he opened at some point. It was around the early 90s, I think. And then I was working with him, stocking up shelf. And then a lot of changes happened. He changed the business to something else. So I've seen my dad change the type of business to go with the times of what's happening. Like at some point we had a deli. I knew how to run that. Little did I know at the time that I was really learning business operations like hands-on, but as a 12-year-old kid, so it was very different. But I didn't realize that. Then as I went into college and I did start it back in Lebanon, I saw there was an accounting class and I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. And so as I'm thinking through the accounting and I'm like, I really loved it. And I realized how much it was similar to, let's say, some manual accounts payable or payments or deposits, all this stuff we were doing in the business, but I never really put the two and two together until I was in college. I was like, oh, well, there's an actual system about this stuff. I was just randomly making stuff up as I think it makes sense. So hence why I got into accounting to begin with. And I realized how important it is like to have a good accountant and really as a business owner to understand your own financials and know how your business is running. So one of the reasons why I got into accounting. And then recently now, after being in the accounting world for over 12 years, more than that now, 13 years, I've gained the skills to be able to teach other CPAs and how they can grow their business through using social media marketing. And that's something that we don't learn as accountants, like in the accounting in college. We're very laser focused on every class is like accounting, tax, and maybe you might get an audit class, maybe. And the rest is really while you're experiencing all the accounting stuff while you're working. But when people leave the account, let's say public accounting, it's very difficult to start growing their business if they don't know where to market and how to sell. So that's where I saw the opportunity just as I was struggling to figure out what to do. And I was able to implement those strategies that I learned. And now I'm ready to help others.
So, what was actually the trigger? Because you were in corporate, and what was the trigger? What inspired you to actually start your own business, to
Yeah.
embark on this entrepreneurial journey, on this roller coaster ride with all these ups and downs you don't know that are going to happen, right? So, what made you do that?
Yeah. So there's multiple reasons. So I was in the public sector for about close to 3 years. Then I went to corporate accounting and I was there for about another 8 years. I felt from a professional standpoint, I hit my ceiling and I was not going to be able to move up the ladder in that company or organization, let's say. And during the same time, there was this feeling of I need to bring this to more people. What I've done is a controller and a CFO and then having that auditor background as well. And so I knew in my city here, let's say in Miami, Florida, there's so many small businesses that could really use that type of help to really help them figure out their accounting, their structures, their segregation of duties, and really help them get a proper structure to build a business on top. It's one thing to make money, but if you don't know how to count your money correctly, you're going to get in trouble. So that was one of the things. And the third one was as my family was growing, I already was realizing how much I need freedom of time to be able to be available for my children and to go to their events, let's say at school. So all three reasons combined, I just made the leap. I knew that I was going to do business at some point in time. I just didn't know what I was going to do. It was always in the back of my mind. So that those three triggers were like, okay, I'm just going to jump in.
Yeah. Wonderful. I want to focus on your mission now because you have a very specific mission. You help fellow accountants and CPAs 10x their firm revenues by getting
Mhm.
referrals and leads using social media. So you are combining accounting with social media. And I think that is very particular, very specific. So, what made you do that? And yeah, what made you do that? Let's start with that. To bring those two together.
Okay, sure. So obviously marketing is a big area and marketing could be so massive. So the reason I said social media is that in this day and age, social proof is everything. So if we don't exist in social media and people don't know you, they can't find you, they won't trust you. So if you have no presence, there's no way they will ever feel even close enough to say, "Hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, or this woman knows what she's talking about as an expert." So when I was starting to do some marketing, I knew that I had to do something in social media. That I knew from the beginning. I just didn't know what I didn't know of what to post. I didn't know client personas. I didn't know anything of that stuff. So I was like randomly posting things and nothing was happening. Fast forward, I hired a couple of people to teach me how to directly reach out to business owners. That works to a certain point, but some people have gotten really uncomfortable. Hey, just leave me alone. There's just so much happening that they're like, leave me alone. So through social media though, so from there I moved into working with, like I said, one of the top names and in the industry, such as Grant Cardone. And I learned all of his marketing strategies. I was his student. I was in his accelerator program. I learned all of the strategies, and it's not one or two. Social media is so huge, and you want to be omnipresent in every single channel. They have to see you everywhere. So they'll be like, okay, I cannot get away from this person. So by creating that value through social media, you're going to be the first one that they reach out to. So one of the things people told me, like as I'm training, they said, well, what are your competitors doing? I kept saying, but I'm a CPA. I really don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. And they're like, well, what are your competitors saying? Look at it and get an idea. I'm like, I don't know. I don't see a lot of my competitors on social media. So I don't know what even to gauge out of. So it was a very difficult journey, I have to say, to come up with content on accounting and CPA, make it simple enough for a business owner to understand and still attract the type of business owners you want. So that's where I realized there's this big gap because a lot of people say, oh, we do social media. That's fine. There's a lot of people that can do it, but how to speak a CPA language and do social media is not there. Not yet. So
Okay.
that's why I felt like it was an opportunity to help.
Wow, that's interesting. Did you find a lot of competition out there, or was it more a blue ocean? Was it like you're pretty much the only one kind of connecting those two parts, those two industry into one? Was that your gap, your opportunity to create your expertise and your authority in that specific space?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was probably more of a blue ocean. Not that there weren't any, but for example, if I was to research a CPA firm online, and let's say I pull up, or most of the ones that would show up would be maybe one of those national firms. Well, I'm not a national firm. I'm trying to compare to myself, let's say, to a smaller, let's say, a startup accountant, maybe one or two, because I had just started. So what, let's say, a national firm may post would be possibly on very how they're attracting new CPAs or accountants or interns. So their social media channels are saying other stuff than what we're trying to do, which is get clients. And again, so there was this gap, and anyone that was claiming that they were helping CPAs, they just didn't talk the language. I hired 3, 4 different people to do social media for me because I realized, okay, I'm limited. I don't know what I don't know. Let me hire someone to help me. And they couldn't even distinguish between what a CPA or an accountant does. After multiple conversations, I would get let's say, I don't know, 12 posts to review before they posted. And I'm like, at the time, I wasn't even doing taxes and it's not my training. I'm an auditor. And I'd be like, I don't do taxes. Please scratch this up. We talked about this. So it was becoming so frustrating that I was like, okay, I'm getting rid of everyone. I'm taking control. I'm going to create them. And that's why I feel like it's there, or they promote it that they know, but they don't understand the language and they do not understand the different tracks in CPA world. And that's something that I'm already familiar with.
So you took control, and that also means you are in charge of it, and you only have 24 hours a day, pretty much. And
Yeah.
when it comes, yeah, and when it comes to platforms, basically, when you are doing everything yourself, you cannot cater to all the different platforms, being on all the different platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook.
Yeah.
So, where's the best place for accountants to generate leads on social media? Is it LinkedIn because it's a business platform? So, where should we focus as an accountant?
Yeah. And that's such a valid question. And I probably have different answers for different platforms. But for me, LinkedIn is super professional, which is great. But most people don't want to talk to you. So it's not social enough for me.
Oh,
So for some people, it works. But for me, it's been, even if I talk to fellow CPAs on there, it's like there's this wall that nobody wants to talk to. Just don't bother me. Don't bother me. And I feel that's because many people use these automated systems with very generic fake messages. And people are getting so bombarded that they're like, just don't talk to me. I'll accept you, but just don't talk to me. And that's not how you run business. Like, you run business of people when people trust you. You can get a new client if they trust you. So if we never have a conversation, I can't do business with you. I can't support you. I can't refer you. So for me, LinkedIn has been very difficult. For some people, it seems to be working. For me, it doesn't. For me, actually, Facebook and Instagram has been really active, very active. Facebook groups is a really hands-on. Facebook groups help quite a lot because whenever you're being active and you're posting, and obviously you have to post up, but you also can be hands-on, and people tend to be more open to listening and open to connecting, at least having a brief chat. There's still a lot of these automated messages coming, but you can tell. And if you are part of a group and there's a proper way of promoting your stuff, or there's a way to recommend. So now if people really know you in that world, they're going to keep recommending you. So a lot of times now, after so many years of putting this time in, I get linked on, let's say, a group that I'm not even part of. Like, people like are asking for something, and a friend would just be like, and tag me and say, you got to talk to her. So once I get that, I'm like, guess what I'm doing? I'm starting a chat, because now it's a warm referral. So it's warmer conversation instead of just randomly hitting people and being, Hey, you want to do this? Hey, I sell this. Hey, I sell that. People don't want to be hit like that. Like you want to start a conversation. So that's been really great way of connecting. Maybe it may not be similar to, let's say, selling a product and you're creating all these fast paced selling, but you are building a relationship. And in a service industry, you want the relationship first. So otherwise, they're not going to do anything.
So how do you do that? Because usually in Facebook groups, we are not allowed to promote our businesses. How do you
Mhm.
start a conversation or be in a conversation that doesn't
Yeah.
come across salesy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea is to not just promote yourself that, hey, I sell something. It's about whatever posts you're creating that have a good content that is educational, which is what you should be doing. If you use that same type of thing, and as long as it's part of the rules, it's okay to share that type of stuff. You can share it in the groups as well. Now you are actually educating the group members. It's just another expansion. Facebook is a massive world. You cannot reach everyone. And as like you would have to post at least 8 to 10 times for hopefully people see your message. But in group setting, there's more of a chance for group members to see that educational piece. And the difference is that, let's say, if you create a group, managing your own group might be actually more time consuming than to just go into different groups that you might have those proper people in there, your type of a business leaders, and then educate the group, be the expert in the group so that any question comes up, they're going to chat with you instead. They're going to come to you and say, hey, I have a problem. Can you help me? So I've gotten to those as well. I've had people that have followed me for a while. They've seen all the stuff that I posted. And then something happens. They reach out to me, hey, I have a friend that needs this. Do you help with that? And here we go. We started a conversation and I did not have to go back for it. I just was delivering value as much as I can, just focusing on delivering value.
Yeah. Creating this no like trust factor, right? Through constantly posting and engaging,
Yes.
educational, but also I would say entertaining and inspiring content.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's also the LinkedIn groups. Are you also in any of these LinkedIn groups, or how do you see that compared to Facebook groups?
Yeah, I've been in a lot of LinkedIn groups. Again, I feel like there's a lot of posts that do go in and really great posts. And I try to be very engaging, at least supporting people that are trying hard to post something. But I don't see it happening at the speed of, let's say, I get messages through Facebook. I can't help it. It's just more active. So constantly my attention goes back to Facebook. And like I said, it's the warm feeling. It's the fact that more people are warmer to accepting a conversation or even being engaged on certain things. So yeah, absolutely. There's more engagement happening there.
Okay. Wow. Are you running Facebook ads as well, or you try to grow organically with your content? What would
Yeah.
you suggest mentee for other accountants being on social media? Does running Facebook ads still make sense with all the changes going on right now?
So Facebook ads, I think you would have to put in so much money into it. There are other ways to advertise as well. You do want to be in the face of people. So you want to be very focused on who you're targeting. But compared to anyone else, if you have a very small budget, the organic way is going to be a lot better. But again, if it's a bigger firm, let's say, and they have the budget to spend, then obviously maybe doing a combination is going to be more effective. That's why I offer like a full on strategy right at the beginning, because there's just so many different ways we can go about it, but we want to be focused on where their clients are. Let's say if they, if major clients are coming from, let's say, the construction industry, right? So where are the construction industry people hanging out? What kind of groups? Where are they? So there's a lot of strategy that has to happen up front before I can get them in the right places. It's not just randomly posting. Maybe that's not a strategy they need. Maybe they need a different strategy. And referrals can come from direct people around you. You just have to find the right combination for that specific client that they're looking for.
Mm. Wow. So when an accountant wants to start promoting on social media, do you have any helpful advice, like 3 action steps they can
Mhm.
take tomorrow or today?
Today. Let's start today. Never delay what you did today for tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think one of the yes. I would say one of the best advice I got from Brand's team when I was doing their accelerator marketing program was take an hour or two, depending, I don't know, an hour or two, and come up with at least 100 concepts that you can talk about. Because once the concepts are out of your head and on paper, it's going to be a lot easier to create more content out of that. The second thing that I would recommend is always think of how your client would receive that information. Don't make it too technical. Don't get into the weeds. Just keep it in a way that the receiver will actually understand and be like, oh, yeah, I get it. And the third thing is that to make sure that you're talking to the right person. So again, if you're just generalizing everything, then you're not talking to anybody. So you really want to focus on talking to the right client. So it's going to be like, hey, you, Mr. Construction guy, are you having trouble putting your accounting into some kind of a semblance? Are you able to recognize your revenue in a specific way? If you're having trouble with that, let's get you on a call so we can help you solve this problem. So instead of just talking to everybody, we want to be very specific as to who we're talking to. So always cater to that so the right person is following you.
Great. Thank you so much, Marie. And when you start out as an entrepreneur, usually you as a person are the face of your company. So, what advice would you give an aspiring entrepreneur looking to build a strong personal brand in the accounting industry? What needs to be in place? What should they focus on? What is important from a customer's perspective? Because they need to know you, they like you, and most of all, they need to trust you so that they chose you over anyone else. What is important? Because it's all about
Yes.
it's it's always important, but when it is about your own money and you put that into the hands of someone else, it's another story, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a very great question because when I started my business as my CPA firm, I didn't even know anything about personal branding. And I had known that either. Again, part of the trainings, one of the things that I heard from Grant was, you are your business. And that was like I wouldn't say slap in the face, but that was like whoa, what? And I was like, okay. So all this time I'm promoting the business like I'm an auditor sitting in the background, very serious. And it's really not me. I'm like this extremely social person. Everyone that has met me, they've told me, even as a corporate accountant, they would tell me, what, you don't sound like a typical accountant. I'm like, oh my God, I am just not even presenting me because I'm trying to present what I think a CPA firm or a CPA should look like. But that is not my real character. That's not me. Or I don't want to use big words. I don't want to do that. This is just me. I come from a different country. English is my fifth language. I cannot be like, I can use big words, but that's not me. So that was a complete changing for me. So from then on, I started like, okay, so how do I show a little bit more of me every time? So I went through leadership role training with horses and stuff. That was a great training, by the way, which actually released the person that was like not hiding, but suppressed inside of the culture that I had to work in and release myself from that because I've been stuck in that for so long. That's the image my corporate world was showing. And that was a great key to not changing, like just becoming more of me. After that, I started changing the way I dress. I came back, I was looking at my wardrobe. I'm like, none of this sounds like me. I don't like a corporate dress. I don't like suits. I don't like any of this. So literally I had to clean the closet, go back to who I am. And I just came and then eventually over time, I was able to just be me. And when I started my podcast, the first one, the first show on accounting, taxes, and the copy time, Marie Torossian CPA, that's where you can tell if you go back to the videos when I first started, you can still see I was still staying in a little bit more corporate, but eventually I started opening up more. And then eventually just now you see full on being authentic self. So my key thing is that be you, because when you're on your authentic self, you're going to attract the people that want to work with you. And if they're not the right people, you don't want to work with them anyway. So if that's not going to match, you might as well not work with them. So for me, that's the choice I made. This is who I am. I'm in jeans. I dress very good, but you will never see me in a corporate dress again. I'm just not putting that on. It's just not me.
That's a beautiful story because now you really you are authentic. It's really about Marie, and it's not something hiding behind something that I think has to be communicated because it's the way of how that industry works. It's not necessary. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to go back to general branding when it comes to entrepreneurs one more time. What
Yeah.
would you have liked to know about branding before you started your entrepreneurial journey? What were those pieces that you needed now in retrospect you wished were there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I certainly lost, I would say, at least about 2 years of figuring things out on my own. So as I started my brand journey and thinking of branding, I wish I had focused on getting a coach right in the beginning and getting the right coach in the beginning to help me with all of these pieces right at the beginning, not almost 2 years after. So from trial and error is how I realized I needed a awesome coach that knows all of these things to teach me and guide me and give me the step by step. So that's one thing that I wish I had right from the beginning, or even I thought about it. I didn't even think about coaches in branding or marketing and all that stuff. So it was all trial and error that I learned and eventually got to that. So I really wish I had someone like that right from the beginning. I could have saved 2 years and lots of money, time, and lots of mistakes, but that's sometimes how you learn.
Sometimes how we learn, but also is a lot of wisdom that we acquire out of these setbacks or failures or detours that we make that are very important for our personality, for our character to morph into a business owner and taking on such a mindset. It takes a little longer, but I think there's a huge learning also in it. But there's also parts that would help to shortcut that journey a little bit by having someone who
Yeah.
is on your side.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
So, Marie,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
I would like to come back to your podcast, the Profit Lab podcast. Are you
Yes.
still looking for guests? How is it going? Who would you like to have on your show? Is there
Yeah.
anything that you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Profit Lab show slash podcast, it's taken a little break at the moment. However, I am going to be collecting, I have the page and I would like to be collecting more guests. The thing, again, it's sometimes part of learning, right? Like you are so passionate about it, you want to do so many things. And I would say I overcommitted doing 2 podcasts and all the other stuff that I do. So I had to put in a hold. And so to launch it again, I would like to be able to have all of my guests ahead of time, scheduled, knowing what I'm doing, because it just takes a lot to produce as you're doing this so many years now. I did coffee time with Marie Torossian, and then it started overlapping with the Profit Lab. I'm like, oh my God, now it's two of them. It's just a lot of production, gathering information. And a few times, a couple of guests like didn't show up or they just, so I'm like, I want to have a more of a systematized way of gathering the guests and maybe do a brief interview ahead of time before I decide, yes, they are the right ones. And of course, things do happen, but when it's going live, it's very difficult to just sit there and wait for the guests to show up. So that's where I'm at. The page is there to be able to submit. I am looking for guests. So if anyone's interested to submit to be a guest on the show, and when we start it up again, I would love to have you submit. Yeah.
Gonna be in the show note. Okay, Marie, we are almost at the end of our show today. And I would like, before we depart, I would like to do some rapid fire questions with you. A quick word.
All right.
Are you ready to give me quick and short answers?
I will do my best. Let's do it.
Okay. When it comes to community, what is important or what comes up to you when you think about community?
community is super important. Like, I feel like everything that I need to do needs to impact my community, whether it's like my personal community here or it's a business community. So whatever I do, I want to always be the one, like, that resource and the benefit to the community. That was a little long.
No, it's okay. Mindset.
Oh, super important. Oh my God. If you're stuck in the wrong mindset, you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, that's what very often we do. So then we need strategies to get out of it again. Of being stuck. Woman empowerment.
Very important. Women empowerment. There's just so much still happening, and I don't want to get into politics, but there's just so many crazy things happening in the world right now. And instead of it empowering women, it's actually putting it down. So I'm all for empowering women, and they should just be very open-minded and open their eyes, because there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world.
And last but not least, brands.
Brands? Yes. Personal branding, business branding, super important. You know who you got to reach out to. Well, very important.
All right, Marie. So Marie, where can listeners find you, get in touch with you? Yeah, if they need someone who helps them 10xing their business, where do they go? How do they reach out to you?
Yes. I'll keep it easy and simple. We have a contact form right on the website. So you can go to www.theprofitlab.biz. And then right at the bottom, there's a contact info. Just submit it. Just please make sure to write down what it is for. So that otherwise I'll think it's just a fake and I'll just delete it.
All right. It's going to be in the show notes. Marie, thank you so much for being my guest today on BrandsTalk. It was a real pleasure to finally talk to you.
Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.